Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Gakyu. Yuyoyuppe. Sick. I don't know anything about this. There's no context here whatsoever, but I do see this album art. I don't know why it's giving me Vocaloid vibes, but I don't know what kind of music we're gonna be in store for. It could be a pop track, which would be pretty cool. But I'm also looking at the fonts of the word "sick." I'm like, yeah, it's kind of punky though. I don't know. Let's get into it though. See what's going on with some yuyoyuppe. I'm fairly confident that is Vocaloid. It's a nice chill vibe though. Lo-fi? This is the opening melody from the vocals in the not metal section, right? It's a fun section though, very bouncy. Yeah, ooh. Very bouncy snare work, but a tempo increase. Bringing in some of that US dubstep. Yeah, a lot of deathcore tropes in those final 20 seconds. I was expecting just a sudden stop. So, I can already... The title of this video, what if Lorna Shore, but Vocaloid? Yeah, I mean, that's how I understand this, honestly. It is a very modern deathcore using a lot of digital sounds, glass shattering, synthy beeps and fuzzy twinkling fast arpeggios and stuff to create texture, both harmonic and production-wise, on top of a rather straightforward mix of death metal and hardcore, really focusing on the vibes of metallic instrumentation and metallic, well, kind of harsh vocals. We'll touch on that later, within the context of punk's hyper focus on atmosphere and vibe over anything else. In a lot of ways, I don't know if it reminds me all of modern Lorna Shore, because honestly, I haven't listened to a lot of them, but it certainly captures a lot of the same feeling I felt when I first heard Into the Hellfire. Is that what it was called? The first single with their new vocalist, Will Ramos. I get a lot of those vibes from this. Or, I mean, maybe to use a more, a different band, like a less chaotic Jillica. I think I could make that parallel too. Definitely another group that uses the deathcore foundation and merges it with a lot of electronic textures. I do feel like that's a bit reductive. There are some parts of this track that I feel are unique, but overall, I'd say that the package of this musically is fairly iterative. The guitars, I don't know if they are guitars, but the synth that is replacing the guitar sound, a lot of that is just chords. Any sort of melodic phrasing comes from the vocals. Occasionally we'll have a semi-melodic ornamental idea on some synth sound. And then any other textural movement we're going to get from synth sounds, samples, tones, anything else like that. The low end is covered by some sort of bassy sound that gets swept up into the guitar-like sound. There's just everything's covering the low end. That's kind of deathcore's problem, is once you detune all your instruments so far, they're all just kind of becoming one thing at the bottom of the track. So if we remove the guitar work, I think that there's three main things I want to focus on that are of interest. If the guitars are just chords most of the time, with a rogue riff here and there. The first is the drumming. I'm going to assume that everything on here is digital. For one, the guitars just don't sound like guitars. Granted, I mean, when you run an instrument through distortion, amplification, overdrive, bite, grit, 10,000 other pedals, you're getting so far away from that original timbre that you can really make anything sound like anything at a certain point. This very well could be guitars. They just don't feel like guitars to me. But if they're digital and the vocalist is digital and all of the synth stuff is, of course, digital because they're synths, are the drums digital? All signs point to yes on this too. So I'm going to assume that this is programmed drumming. I don't think that removes any of the things I'm about to say regarding the composition of it, but I know some people are just really against programmed drums, and I'd probably get blasted in the comments if I didn't bring it up. So I brought it up. As far as the drumming itself, though, I really enjoy it. It is dynamic. It is hyperactive. There's so much going on with the drums at all times. The drum fills are crazy. The drum work is consistently evolving. It is always retaining an energy, though, regardless of how smooth the drum work wants to be, which honestly isn't often, but it is in there sometimes, just having a bit of a lighter attack to everything. It is always progressing forward. There's always this momentum, this energy to all of it. It also gets really intense with its volume and the strike, the velocity of it all, that sometimes it just sounds like an inhuman amount of strength going into hitting a drum. This is another thing that leads me to think it's programmed. Also, the consistency of these ridiculously high velocity hits. Regardless, there is a little bit of variability between the way that the drum sounds, even in the more metallic parts of this song. But it is incredibly dynamic. There is always something cool going on with the drums. They are presenting new rhythms, new flows, new fills. They're taking us into higher and lower tempo sections. They're bringing the energy up. They're bringing the energy down. They really direct everything. I'm not as upset that the guitars are relegated to primarily texture-based ideas, because the drums do a phenomenal job of playing secondary to the vocals, which are, of course, the highlight of this song in pretty much every situation. I really dig the drum work here. Nothing in it sounded too absurd. I do think that it is very drummable. Not even just like, you know, the top of the top of the top of the top could drum it. I think as long as you're a decent metal drummer who has the chops for 16th note bass kicks and blast beats, I think you'd be able to perform this. There wasn't anything in it that sounded too extreme. You know, I would use the phrase digital only composition, but I have seen guitarists, drummers, vocalists, all sorts of people pull off stuff that should be impossible for a human and still do it anyways, do covers of impossible tracks. So I don't put anything past humanity anymore. We are phenomenal. We will find a way to do it, and someone will push past the limits and break through to a new limit for humans. But nothing in here sounds impossible. It's just technical, it's dexterous, and it's ever evolving. The other part that I think stands out here is the texture work. There's a lot of digital sounds going on in here that I really enjoy. It adds a lot of character to this track, and it allows, you know, if we were just playing chords and doing some cool drum stuff underneath, it wouldn't be that interesting of a track. It is these additional synth parts that bring one of the best parts of electronic music into the realm of metal. I love how electronic music focuses on so much as a hyper maximalism, since you don't ever have to worry about the logistics of performing what you're playing. If you want to put 7,000 instruments into a song and allow each instrument to only play one note ever in your entire track, you can do that, because all you got to do is hit the space bar. You know, all the work goes into the creation of it. The performance side isn't part of the equation at all, and that frees up so much. There's so much freedom to making electronic music, and we hear a lot of that in here. There's a lot of textures and sounds that elevate specific moments or specific phrases and then aren't used again. New instruments, new textures, new timbres, new sounds, they come and go, and all of it is done to elevate the moment, whatever that moment is. And if it never comes back, whatever. And I love that. It's kid in a candy store. My ears are constantly perking up. Ooh, what's that sound? Ooh, what's that sound? That sounds cool. That sounds neat. I love that little idea. That was really fast. You know, all sorts of things. And it's just, it elevates. It brings up the song from something that would be a bit arguably less interesting. I was going to say boring, but I don't think deathcore can ever be boring per se. It is too extreme to be boring. But to me, it makes it more interesting, because when you strip a lot of the texture away, you just end up with a couple of chords and some drumming, and just compositionally, there's not a lot there. And I think that all of these electronic parts introduce more compositional complexity to the track that I certainly enjoy anyways. The elephant in the room is the vocals. What in the world? We've listened to a couple of tracks, I believe from Kikuo, but you all can correct me on that if I'm wrong, that use semi-distorted Vocaloid voices. And we've had this conversation before, and I believe there's certainly ways to do it yourself if you wanted to handcraft every part of the compression process, but I believe there's also a general use effect, a VST you can throw on it that's designed to add compression to Vocaloid voices. Like, that's what the effect does. This is beyond anything I think I've heard before. This is still very clearly a distortion of a clean vocal. And I don't mean that in like the way that, maybe an alternative rock singer or a grungy singer might put some grit on their vocals, get a little bit of that little rasp underneath. No, this is a digital distortion of clean vocals, of taking something that's clean and grittying it up, not by adding compression to it naturally, but by distorting and compressing the sound file that was clean. It has a very distinct flavor to it, a very distinct sound. To me personally, it's very artificial, but I think that this comes the closest to growls and fry screams that I've heard done by Vocaloids. I'm really going to be kicking myself if this isn't a Vocaloid track later. I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, someone could make themselves sound a bit more stilted like Vocaloids tend to sound like. For me, that's one of the main quality of Vocaloids is that they're just a little less fluid than human speech, even in some of the highest, the best Vocaloid software out there. Hatsune Miku, there's still a stiltedness to the delivery. But when you add in this unique compression thing, I mean, you could technically record someone who's mimicking a Vocaloid and then distort that clean sound wave, and now you have the exact same process, probably creating a very similar sound. So again, this doesn't have to be Vocaloid, but as far as this process of recording a clean sound, however that may be, and then distorting it in post, this is one of the better things that I've seen, the more convincing illusions of that. And I find that to be rather interesting. When you put it with everything else and tuck it into the mix, that certainly helps with the illusion a little bit. It legitimately sounds like some quality deathcore vocals. And I think that's pretty impressive. And it kind of goes against one of the main things I hear with Vocaloid music is they get pop produced. Vocals are above the bands, even in the metal Vocaloid scene. And I think tucking it into the mix feels a little blasphemous for Vocaloid music. But at the same time, it is one of those tricks that's really helping it feel more like deathcore, to really feel like what they're doing. I was going to say mimicking, and I think that's kind of accurate because I don't think anything in here is how you would normally make deathcore, which is with real instruments and real vocals. Everything here, I'm fairly confident, is digital. So there is a mimicry to it, but I mean, it is at the end of the day solid iterative death metal too. It's just instead of going the normal route or the traditional route, they're carving their own path to get to a very similar destination. The fake outs on here, by the way, especially the intro, phenomenal. Absolutely love the roller coaster ride of not knowing where we were going and winding up somewhere I would never have expected. As far as, breaking down the music, because I feel like what I've done mostly here is talk about how it's created and what it's trying to do. It's deathcore at the end of the day. I don't have a strong relationship to this or a strong emotional connection. It is just heavy and aggressive at all times. And the iterative element isn't helping me, I would say, enjoy it in any more capacity than I would enjoy any other kind of typical deathcore. I do like the electronic bits that exist on the outside, but I mean, honestly, this is probably a backhanded compliment maybe. It is such iteratively deathcore that it's giving me the same kind of lack of emotional connection that real deathcore does. It's so close to the real thing that I have nothing really to add to my journey to it other than, wow, that was a pretty gnarly track. But I do think that on the side of creation and the fact that this exists at all, I have a lot of appreciation for this craft of making a genre of music with none of the instruments that the genre of music is typically made in, and still kind of coming away with something really close. It's a very strong facsimile of it. Let me see if I can find some lyrics for this one, and then we're going to wrap this one up. All right. As I should have expected, it's a Vocaloid track. It's got incredibly dark lyrics. Does anyone have any cute Vocaloid tracks? Not just musically, but lyrically too. Maybe we can explore that one of these days. This is about a person who is probably dealing with a type of depression. So much about their life is just not fulfilling for them. It brings a pain that, as they say, says it's not the body or the head that hurts. I'm racked in panic and anxiety already. Talks about a death of the soul. Something more than the physical pain. Something is just very wrong about existence itself. The very opening of this track, that very light semi-trap beat that goes on, says, my head spins in circles as spring hangs its head. I'm starting to see who's a phony and who's not. I just want to stay in this sad little room doing absolutely nothing. Lack of, what is it? A lack of ambition. They understand that this is not a great place to be. They call it a sad little room. They understand they don't want to do anything, but this is what is comfortable for them. The first metallic verse states, thousands and thousands of times I've searched inside and found that nothing has changed at all. We'll actually see an expansion of this in the second light section right before the final chorus and breakdown that says, I answer their questions correctly, I follow the prescription and dosage, but the pain refuses to cease even a little bit. Please tell me why. They're doing everything they can to alleviate this discomfort, whatever it may be. They say it's not of the mind or the body. Unfortunately, we don't have too many doctors that can fix something that is maybe a more spiritual schism within. But no matter what happens, they've tried to change who they are. They've searched inside. They've talked to people. They've taken drugs, medication for it. Nothing changes anything. And this takes us to the chorus. The chorus is a bit of a variation on the intro, and actually the third time we hit the chorus, we actually do just sing that intro bit again about wanting to stay in the sad little room. But the second chorus is a little different. It says, my head spins in circles from one season to another. Without even one slow hour, my brain blurs itself to hell. I hate the time that passes in silence so much that I want to puke, and I feel like I'm about to die. Nothing else really, I think, sells the severity of this existence like this stanza does. We then take us into the post-chorus, or maybe the second half of the chorus. It shows up after the third chorus as well. It says, with a lot of repetition, I hate, I hate, I hate, I hate, I hate smiling. And I can't do it. Not just the smiling. I get the indication that this is anything. I can't move on with life. I can't be happy. I can't find calm. I can't accept this. Just a general feeling of defeat. That covers pretty much all of the lyrics in this track, and it just paints a very bleak picture of this person's existence and their attempts to find life a bit more palatable and just being unable to, despite going down several avenues and having such a visceral reaction to the way existence is right now. And that's heartbreaking. I think this kind of music works really well for that. This is an incredibly extreme delivery of lyrics. It's a pretty extreme delivery of sound as well. These are my thoughts on Yuyoyuppe's Sick. What did you think of this? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this? Let me know. Add all of that and anything else you'd like to into the comments section below. Above that, in the description box, is a link to Linktree. It'll take you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.